Wheeler had been documenting civilizations for 20 cycles, but humans still confused. He stood at the observation deck of Trade Station Vidian 7, watching ships come and go through the docking ports. Human vessels moved among them, smaller than most, painted in bright colors, always punctual with their arrival. Times a voice spoke behind him. First time studying humans, Ballard turned his body segments to face the speaker. Human male stood there holding 2 containers of hot liquid. The human had dark hair and warm eyes that crinkled at the corners. He wore simple clothes. Nothing fancy, nothing military. Yes, Wheeler replied, his translator converting his clicks into standard galactic speech. I'm making a documentary about your species. You have only been in galactic society for 50 standard years. Yet you have integrated remarkably well. The human smiled and offered 1 container to Wheeler. Coffee, it's safe. For krill biology, I checked, I'm Jewan. Diplomatic attaché for the human settlement here. Wheeler accepted the drink carefully. Humans were always offering food and beverages. It was one of their many social habits. Thank you. I am Wheeler of the Krill Observation Corps. Jewan gestured to the window. Those are our ships. We run trade routes between here and our colony worlds. Nothing exciting really. Grain, minerals, manufactured goods, standard stuff your people seem content with. Peaceful trade, Wheeler observed. Many species your age are more aggressive, trying to claim territory and resources by force. Something flickered across Jewan's face, too quick for Wheeler to interpret. We've learned that trade works better than fighting. Everyone benefits. Over the next few weeks, Jewan introduced Wheeler to the human community. On the station, there was Hannah, a sharp-eyed female who negotiated trade contracts with the precision of a mathematician. She could argue about grain prices for hours, never losing her patience or her smile. The key is finding mutual benefit, Hannah explained one day, showing Welter her work. We don't want to win negotiations. We want both sides to walk away happy. That way they come back. Wheeler recorded everything. He documented how humans ran their shops, taught their children, celebrated their festivals. They seemed so ordinary, so peaceful. Nothing like the warrior races he had studied, the Krell with their battle honors or the Thorian clans with their blood feuds. The human settlement was clean and organized. Families walked together in the common areas. Children played games that seemed designed to teach cooperation rather than competition. Everyone worked together like parts of a single organism. One day, Jewan invited Wheeler to visit the human colony world called New Hope. If you want to understand us, you need to see how we live, Jewan said. Station life is different from colony life. The journey took 3 days on a human transport ship. Feller noticed that even civilian ships had unusually thick hulls and redundant systems. When he asked about it, the captain, a friendly female named Sman, just shrugged. Space is dangerous, she said. We build things to last. New Hope was beautiful. Colony sat in a valley surrounded by purple mountains. Fields of grain stretched in every direction, golden under the system's orange sun. Human settlements dotted the landscape, small towns connected by roads and rail lines. Jewan showed Wheeler everything. The schools where children learned math and history, the hospitals where doctors treated both humans and aliens, the Parks where families gathered to eat and talk. It all seemed so peaceful, so permanent, but Wheeler noticed odd things. The towns were built with thick walls, even though there were no predators on New Hope. Every building had a basement, deep ones reinforced with metal. Roads were wide and straight, perfect for moving vehicles quickly. He mentioned this to Cao Yuan, a quiet human male who worked as a security officer. Cao Yuan had been showing Wheeler the colony's infrastructure, the power plants, the water systems, the communication networks. Kong looked at the town walls for a long moment before answering. Old habits, he said finally. Humans have a long history. We've learned to be prepared. Prepared for what? Belter asked. New Hope has no enemies. The colony has been at peace since its founding. Cao Yuan and LT Unk and GT's expression remained neutral. We hope it stays that way. That evening, Wheeler joined several humans for dinner at Jiwen's home. Hana was there along with Cao Yuan and a few others. They ate food from earth, rice, and vegetables and spiced meat that made Velter's sensors tingle. The conversation was light and friendly. They talked about the upcoming harvest, about a new trade agreement with the Virillian Cooperative, about a child's birthday party next week. Normal things, peaceful things. Bilar felt satisfied with his research. Humans were exactly what they appeared to be, a species that had left their violent past behind and embraced cooperation and peace. His documentary would show the galaxy that even aggressive species could evolve beyond their nature. The communication panel on the wall suddenly activated. A face appeared, an older human male with gray hair and tired eyes. Jiwen, we need everyone at the government center now. The mood in the room changed instantly. All the humans stood up, their relaxed postures gone. Jiwen's friendly smile disappeared, replaced by something harder. What happened, Doyen? Jiwen asked the man on the screen. Doyen, apparently the colony governor, looked grim. The Krellel Dominion just issued an official statement. They're claiming sovereignty over New Hope and 4 other human colony worlds. They say we have 30 days to evacuate or accept Krell authority. Silence filled the room. Feller's sensor stalks quivered. The Krellel were a powerful species with a military twice the size of humanity's. They had been expanding their territory for decades, absorbing weaker civilizations. Hana spoke first, her voice cold and professional. Have they given justification? Ancient territorial rights, apparently. Doyen said. Complete nonsense, but backed by 3 battle fleets. Cao Yuan was already moving toward the door. I'll activate the security network. No, Diane said. Not yet. We're still in diplomatic mode. Jiwen, I need you back on Vidian 7. Immediately. Start calling in every favor we have. Hana, begin moving critical supplies to secure storage. Everyone else, normal routine for now. We don't panic. The screen went dark. The human stood in silence for several seconds. Then G1 turned to Wheeler. His face was calm, but his eyes had changed. They reminded Wheeler suddenly of a predator he had documented once. Patient, calculating, dangerous. I'm sorry you had to see this, Ji-Yuan said quietly. We really did hope things would stay peaceful. What will you do? Belter asked. The Krell have overwhelming military advantage. Surely you will negotiate, perhaps relocate to new worlds. Ji-Yuan looked at Hana, then at Kong. Something passed between them, some shared understanding that Wheeler Couldn't quite read. We in LT Unc and GT, LL tried diplomacy first, Juan. Said we always do, but if the Krell want New Hope, he paused and his voice dropped to something that made Veeler's skin prickle, they should reconsider. The way he said it, so quiet, so certain, made Veeler realize something. These peaceful humans with their trade, roots and farms and children's birthday parties were not afraid, and that somehow was the most frightening thing of all. 3 weeks passed like a storm. Gathering on the horizon, Bilar remained on New Hope, documenting everything. The Krell demands remained unchanged. Diplomatic talks went nowhere. The Krell wanted the colonies and they were prepared to take them by force. Veeler expected panic. He expected refugees fleeing chaos in the streets, perhaps riots. Instead, he witnessed something that confused him deeply. The humans became more organized. It started small. Families began moving supplies to their basement: food, water, medical equipment. The local government held community meetings every evening. Parents sent their children to special classes that taught them emergency procedures, but no one screamed, no one cried, no one seemed afraid. Feller found Hannah in one of the supply warehouses, directing workers who were loading containers onto trucks. She was no longer wearing her business clothes. Instead, she wore practical work gear and had her hair tied back. Where are you taking all this? Bilar asked. Hannah checked something on her data pad before answering. Distribution points. Every neighborhood has designated shelters. Now, we're making sure each one has enough supplies for 2 months. You expect a long siege. We expect to be prepared for anything. She looked at him directly. Veeler, you don't have to stay here. If fighting starts, it won't be safe. I am a documentarian. Veeler replied. I must record what happens. This is important for galactic understanding. Hannah's expression softened slightly. Then stay close to designated safe zones, and if someone tells you to take cover, you do it immediately. Understand? Before Veeler could respond, alarms began blaring across the colony. Hannah's data pad lit up with alerts. She read them quickly, and her face went hard. They're here. The Krell just entered the system. Everything changed in seconds. Speakers across the colony activated with Doyen's voice. All residents, this is not a drill. Proceed to shelter positions immediately. Defense forces activate all protocols. They're coming. Bethar expected chaos, but what he witnessed was something entirely different. The humans moved with practiced precision. Families gathered their children and walked quickly, not running, not panicking, toward the nearest shelter entrance. Shop owners locked their doors and followed designated routes. Within minutes, the streets were clear. Hannah grabbed Veeler's arm. Come with me. You'll document from the command center. They reached the government building just as the first Krell ships appeared. In the sky, massive vessels darkened. Angular descended through the clouds like falling mountains. Veeler counted 12 landing craft, each one capable of carrying 500 soldiers. Inside the command center, Doyen stood before a wall of screens showing different areas of the colony. Other humans worked at stations, speaking in calm voices, coordinating responses. There was no shouting, no panic, just focused efficiency. A female human wearing military uniform approached Dune. Her name tag read Mina. She carried herself like a soldier, straight back and alert. All civilians Are in shelters, Mina reported defense. Grid is active, Zuho's forces are in position. Doyen nodded, rules of engagement. They fire first. We return. Fire. They land troops. We engage. No. Civilian casualties if possible. Good. Let's hope they reconsider. The Krell didn't reconsider. Their landing craft touched down in the fields outside the main town. Ramps lowered in Krell. Warriors poured out, massive creatures covered in battle armor, carrying weapons designed to intimidate as much as kill. They marched toward the town. Formation, 500 strong, expecting easy surrender. That's when Velar saw what humans had built during their peaceful colonization. The fields weren't just fields. As the Krell advanced, hidden hatches opened in the ground. Human soldiers emerged from concealed positions, wearing armor that seemed to appear from nowhere. The grain field suddenly bristled with weapons. The first Krell squad stepped on what looked like solid ground. Mines exploded, throwing bodies into the air. The Krell formation broke, soldiers diving for cover, but there was no cover. Every boulder, every small hill, every tree had been carefully positioned. The humans had built the entire landscape with this moment. Mind, a human male's voice came over the command center speakers, calm, professional with no fear. Zuho here. Enemy engaged, executing Plan Delta. The screen showed human soldiers moving with incredible coordination. They didn't charge like warriors, they moved like hunters, using every advantage, never exposing themselves unnecessarily. The Krell tried to advance. Human fire forced them back. The Krell tried to flank. Humans had already positioned troops there. The Krell tried to call in air support. Human anti-aircraft systems locked on immediately. Belar watched in shock as 50 human soldiers held back 500 Krell warriors, not through superior weapons or armor, but through superior tactics and preparation. How is this possible? Belar asked. Your people are traders, farmers, teachers. Doyen turned to look at him. The governor's face was sad but determined. Our people are whatever they need to be. On the screens, more Krell landing craft descended. The second wave this time. 1,000 soldiers. Mina spoke quietly into her communication device. Zuho. Reinforcements incoming. Recommend fall back to secondary positions. Negative, Zuho's voice replied. We're holding here. Execute trap pattern. 3. Velar didn't understand what that meant until he saw it happen. Human soldiers suddenly retreated, falling back from their positions. Krell, sensing victory, charged forward into the abandoned defensive line. Then the buildings exploded, not destroyed. Reconfigured. Walls collapsed to create firing positions. Rooftops revealed hidden weapons. The entire town transformed from a peaceful settlement into a fortress in seconds. The Krell advance stopped, caught in a killing zone they hadn't seen coming. Every building, Doyen said quietly, answering Velar's unspoken question. When we build human settlements, we build them to protect the people who live there. Always. The battle continued for hours. The Krell sent wave after wave of soldiers. The humans held, yielding ground only when necessary, making the Krell pay for every meter advanced. Belar recorded everything, his mind struggling to understand what he was seeing. These were the same humans who had served him coffee, who had shown him their children's schools, who had invited him to dinner. Now they fought with cold efficiency, every movement. Calculated, every shot deliberate, as night fell, the Krell commander aboard. The orbiting fleet sent a message to the surface. It appeared on all screens in the command center. You cannot win, the Krell commander said. We have 12 ships in orbit. We have 50,000 troops in this fleet. Surrender now and we will be merciful. Doyen looked at the message for a long moment, then he opened a return channel. This is Governor Doyen of New Hope Colony. You have attacked our people. You have destroyed our crops. You have killed our citizens. We offered you diplomacy. You chose violence. He paused and his voice became harder than steel. Now understand this. You will not take this world. You will not take any human world. Every meter you advance will cost you blood. Every day you fight will cost you more. We don't want this war, but if you force it upon us, we will show you what humans become when you threaten our families. The Krell commander's face showed something like confusion. You are surrounded, outnumbered. You have no hope. Doyen almost smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Hope is our colony's name. It's not our strategy. Our strategy is preparation, endurance, and absolute commitment to protecting our people. Test it if you wish. The channel closed. Alarm sounded again. More Krell ships were entering the system, but this time human ships appeared on the scanners too. Military vessels emerging from jump points. Juan's voice came through the command center speakers. Doyen, this is the diplomatic vessel Covenant. We've brought friends. 17 human warships fully armed. We're moving to engage the Kree fleet. On one of the screens, Veeler saw Jowan on the bridge of a human ship, but this wasn't the friendly diplomatic attaché from the station. This Juan wore a military uniform. His eyes were cold and focused. Governor, Juan continued, hold your position. We're bringing the fire. Veeler turned to Doyen. You were prepared for this, all of it. Defenses, the military response. Everything. Doyen met his gaze. We hoped we'd never need it, but yes, we were prepared. Humans learned a long time ago what happens when you're not prepared for war. We don't make that mistake anymore. Outside, the battle continued into the night, and Veeler finally understood these peaceful humans had never stopped being warriors. They had simply chosen to be something else until they couldn't anymore. Veeler stood on the bridge of the human warship, indomitable, watching the stars streak past as the massive vessel traveled toward Krell space. 2 weeks had passed since the attack on New Hope. The Krell ground forces had withdrawn after losing 3,000 soldiers. Their fleet had pulled back after 2 of their cruisers were destroyed, but the humans hadn't stopped. They hadn't celebrated their victory and returned to peaceful trade. Instead, they had mobilized their full military strength and gone on the offensive. Veeler had requested permission to continue documenting, and surprisingly, the humans had agreed. Now he traveled with the Warfleet, recording everything for his documentary, though it was becoming something very different from what he had originally planned. The bridge was enormous, filled with displays and workstations where dozens of humans monitored different systems. Everything operated with quiet efficiency. No one shouted, no one panicked. They worked like a single organism with one purpose. Admiral Taeyong commanded from a raised platform. In the center, he was an older man, his hair gray at the temples, his face lined with years of experience. when he spoke. Everyone listened. "Status report, Taeyang," said a female officer at the navigation station. Responded. "We and LT Unk and GTLL reached the krill mining operation in 4 hours, Admiral. The fleet is maintaining formation. All ships report ready." Taeyang nodded. "Good, Young. What's our intelligence on the target?" The intelligence officer, a woman with sharp eyes and a data pad always in her hands, brought up a holographic display. The mining station produces 30% of the krell's military-grade metals. It's defended by 2 battle stations and a garrison of 10,000 troops. "They know we're coming. Let them know," Taeyang said calmly. "I want them afraid." Bilar approached the Admiral. "May I ask a question?" Taeyang gestured for him to speak. "The krell attacked one of your colonies. You defended it successfully and drove them back. Why not stop there? Why pursue them into their own territory? This seems like escalation." Taeyang looked at Veeler with the patient expression of a teacher explaining something to a student. "Because if we stop at defense, the krell will just try again. Maybe in a year, maybe in 10 years they'll rebuild, reorganize, and attack another human world when they think we're weak. So this is revenge." "No," Taeyang said firmly. "This is war. We don't fight to win battles, Veeler. We fight to end wars. The krill need to understand that attacking humanity is not just costly, it's suicidal. We need to break their ability and will to continue fighting." Another officer approached a young male with pilot wings on his uniform. "Admiral, fighter squadrons are ready for deployment." Junho reporting. Taeyang studied the tactical display. "Hold position for now, Lieutenant. I want to try something first." He nodded to Yanji, who activated a communications channel. Suddenly, every screen on the bridge showed a message being broadcast toward the krell mining station. It was footage of krell prisoners from the New Hope battle. They sat in clean rooms, eating food, receiving medical treatment. Human doctors tended their wounds. The prisoners looked confused but unharmed. Young Ji's voice accompanied the footage, speaking in krell language through the translator. "Soldiers of the Krell Dominion, we are humans. Your leader sent you to take our colony. You failed. Now you are prisoners, and we treat you according to the galactic conventions of war. We do not torture. We do not execute. You will be returned to your people when this conflict ends." The message continued. And GT, but we want you to understand something. And GT, your leaders told you humans are weak, soft, easy to defeat. They lied. We have been preparing for war since before we left our home world. We have weapons you haven't seen, tactics you can't counter. And we will not stop until this threat to our people is eliminated. The message ended with simple text: "Surrender now or face human determination." Veeler was shocked. "You're trying to break their morale." "We're trying to save lives," Yunji corrected. "Theirs and ours. Every krill soldier who surrenders is one less enemy we have to fight. This is psychological warfare, and it's as important as any weapon." As the fleet approached the mining station, Veeler watched the humans execute their battle plan. It was nothing like the krell's direct assault on New Hope. The human fleet didn't charge forward. Instead, they spread out, surrounding the station. From multiple angles, small, fast ships, fighters and bombers launched from the carriers. Junho led his squadron first. Veeler watched through the tactical display as the human fighters moved with breathtaking coordination. They weren't individuals flying ships. They were parts of a living pattern, each movement supporting the others. The Krell defense stations opened fire. Massive energy weapons lit up space, trying to hit the agile human fighters. But the humans were too fast, too unpredictable. They dodged and weaved, drawing the defense fire away from the main fleet. Then the human bombers struck. They didn't target the defense stations directly. Instead, they destroyed the station's sensor arrays, communication relays, and power generators. Within minutes, the Krell defenses were blind and confused. Only then did the main fleet advance. Indomitable and other heavy cruisers moved into weapons range. Their cannons fired with precision, targeting specific points on the defense stations, not random bombardment, surgical strikes designed to disable rather than destroy. Why not just destroy them? Veeler asked. You have the firepower. Tae Young never took his eyes off the tactical display. Because we're not monsters. Those stations have thousands of workers. Miners, technicians, families. We disable military targets. We avoid civilian casualties whenever possible. That's what separates us from them. The first Krill defense station lost power. Its weapons went silent. Its shields collapsed, but it remained intact. Its crew alive. A transmission came from the station, the Krello commander requesting terms of surrender. Taeyong accepted. Second station surrendered moments later. The mining operation was captured, with minimal casualties on both sides. Over the following days, Veeler watched as the human fleet moved through Krell space with devastating efficiency. They didn't conquer planets or enslave populations. They systematically dismantled the Kree military infrastructure, shipyards, weapons factories, supply depots. At each target, Yunji broadcast the same message. At each target they offered surrender first. At each target they demonstrated overwhelming force while minimizing casualties. Other alien species began to take notice. Delegations arrived to observe the human fleet. Some offered support, others simply watched in fear. One evening, Veeler found Hana in the ship's mess hall. She was eating a simple meal and reviewing reports on her data pad. She now wore a military logistics uniform and coordinated supply lines for the entire fleet. May I join you? Velter asked. Hana gestured to the seat across from her. Of course. How's your documentary going? It's different than I expected. I thought I was studying a peaceful species. Now I'm documenting a war machine. Hana sat down her data pad. We are peaceful, Veeler. That's not a lie. Everything you saw in New Hope, all those families and schools and farms, that's what we want to be. That's what we are when we're allowed to be. But this gestured around the warship. This military power, this preparation, these weapons and tactics, you've been building this all along. Yes, Hana admitted, because we learned our lesson. On Earth in our history there were times when peaceful people were conquered by violent ones, when unprepared civilizations were destroyed by prepared ones. We decided that would never happen to us again. She looked at him directly. We don't want to be warriors, Veeler. We want to be builders, creators, explorers. But we learned that if you want peace, you must be capable of war. It's not fair, it's not right, but it's reality. So you became good at war to avoid having to fight. Exactly. We're good at war so that others think twice before starting one. And when Someone forces war upon us, we fight to end it as quickly as possible, every day. This war continues, people die, so we fight efficiently, decisively to bring peace back faster. B'Elar thought about this. The galaxy fears you, I know, Hana said quietly. I wish they didn't, but maybe fear prevents more wars than diplomacy alone. An announcement came over the ship's speakers. Admiral Taeyang and LT Unk and GT's voice. All personnel, prepare for jump. We're moving to the Krell home system. This ends soon. Hana stood up, collecting her data pad. You should record what happens next, Velar. The galaxy needs to understand humans don't fight to dominate, we fight to protect, and once we've won you'll see what we do with victory. As she left, Velar sat alone with his thoughts. He was witnessing something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that could be both peaceful and terrifying, that could show mercy while being absolutely merciless, and he was beginning to understand why other species feared them. It wasn't because humans were monsters, it was because they could choose to be monsters and chose not to be, but everyone knew that choice could change in an instant if their families were threatened. That restraint, that controlled power, that calculated mercy, it was more frightening than any mindless aggression. The jump drive activated, and the indomitable leap toward the final confrontation. The Krell home system was a fortress. 3 massive defense platforms orbited the planet, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. Hundreds of warships patrolled the space lanes. The planet itself bristled with ground-based weapons that could reach into orbit. Velar stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as the human fleet emerged from jump space. They appeared at the edge of the system, far from the Krell defenses, but close enough to be detected immediately. Admiral Taeyang stood at his command position, looking at the tactical display showing the Krell forces. There was no concern on his face, no fear, just cold calculation. They're moving to intercept, reported the sensor officer. 217 warships forming up, defense platforms powering weapons. They're ready for us. Of course they are, Taeyang said. Yangji, open a channel to the Krell region, full broadcast. I want everyone in this system to hear this. The communication screens activated. Krell appeared. Regent Thakner, leader of the Dominion. He was massive even for his species, covered in ceremonial armor that marked his rank. His face showed contempt. Humans rumbled. You have made a mistake coming here. This is our home, our fortress. You cannot take this world. Taeyang and LT Unk and GT's voice remained calm. Regent Thakner, we don't want to take your world. We want to end this war. Surrender now. Withdraw your claims on human colonies. Pay reparations for the damage you've caused. Do this and no more blood needs to be spilled. Thakner laughed, a harsh grating sound. You come to our home system with a small fleet and demand surrender. Your arrogance is astounding. We have 5 times your numbers. Our defenses are impenetrable. You will die here, and your species will learn what happens when you challenge the Krell Dominion. Then you've made your choice, Taeyang said quietly. What happens next is on you. He closed the channel and turned to his officers. All ships execute Operation Endurance. Begin the grind. Velar had learned enough about human military terminology to understand what that meant. He had heard the officers discussing it in the mess Halls in the planning sessions, in the quiet conversations between shifts. The grind was not a battle, it was systematic destruction over time. The human fleet didn't charge forward to engage the Krell forces. Instead, they split into 3 groups and began a rotation pattern. One group attacked from one direction while the other 2 repositioned. Then the second group attacked from a different angle while the first and third repositioned. Then the third group attacked while the others moved. The attacks never stopped. 24 hours a day, human ships struck at Krill defenses from unpredictable angles, not massive assaults, calculated strikes designed to keep the enemy constantly reacting, never resting, always under pressure. The Krell tried to engage, sending their fleets to intercept, but the humans never committed to direct combat. They would attack, inflict damage, then withdraw before the Krell could bring their superior numbers to bear. B'Elar watched this continue for days. The Krell forces never had a moment of peace. When one human group withdrew to rest and rearm, another was already attacking. The human crews worked in shifts, always fresh, always ready. The Krell had no such luxury. Their entire military was committed to defense, and defense required constant vigilance. They couldn't rotate their forces effectively because the attacks came from too many directions at unpredictable times. We're not trying to destroy them, Taeyang explained to Veeler on the 3rd day. We're wearing them down. Human endurance versus Krill pride. They think they're stronger, but strength without rest becomes weakness. By the 5th day, the Krill defense began showing cracks. Ship crews made mistakes from exhaustion. Response time slowed. The coordination between defense platforms and mobile fleets started breaking down. Junho's fighter squadron took advantage of every gap. They struck at supply ships, communication relays, ammunition depots. Never the big targets, always the support infrastructure that kept the military functioning. On the 7th day, Veeler witnessed what human special forces could do. Kong appeared on the Indomitable's bridge, wearing armor that seemed to absorb light. He looked different from the quiet security officer Veeler had met on New Hope. Harder, focused, dangerous. Admiral Cao Yuan reported, Special Operations Team is ready for deployment. Taeyang nodded. Target is the Central Command Nexus. I want communications disrupted, not destroyed. No casualties unless absolutely necessary. Can you do it? Yes, sir. Kong and his team launched from the ship in small, stealthy craft. B'Elar watched through long-range sensors as they approached the Krell planet. Slipping through the defensive grid like shadows, they infiltrated the command center, disabled the security systems, and planted disruption devices in the communication hubs. They did it without firing a single shot, without killing a single Krell. Then they withdrew as silently as they had arrived. Suddenly, the Krell forces lost coordination. The defense platforms couldn't communicate with the fleet. The fleet couldn't coordinate with ground forces. Each unit was isolated, forced to act independently. That's when Admiral Taeyang changed tactics. All ships converge on Defense Platform Alpha. Full assault time to end this. The entire human fleet struck at a single target. With overwhelming force, the Krell tried to respond, but without communications. Their reaction was slow and uncoordinated. The defense platform fell within hours. Then the humans withdrew again. returning to the rotation pattern. But now the Krell knew what was coming. The humans would isolate and destroy each defense platform one by one, and there was nothing the Krell could do to stop it. On the 10th day, Regent Thaknor sent a communication. His face showed exhaustion and anger. "What do you want?" he demanded. "You've proven your point. You can hurt us, but you cannot take this planet. We will fight to the last warrior." Taeyong's response was simple. "We don't want your planet, Regent. We want you to stop attacking ours. Surrender and this ends. Refuse, and we continue the grind. We can do this for months, years if necessary. We have the patience. The question is, do you?" Thaknor's face showed something had never seen from a Krell. "Doubt. Your soldiers haven't slept properly in 10 days. Taeyong continued. "Your supply lines are breaking down. Your people on the planet below can see us in their sky every day. A constant reminder that their military cannot protect them. How long before your own people demand you end this war? You fight without honor." Thaknor spat. "You use tricks and deception instead of facing us in direct combat. We use intelligence instead of pride." Taeyong corrected. "We fight to win, not to prove anything. Honor is wonderful until your people are dead because you valued pride over their lives." He leaned forward. "I've studied your military history, Regent. Your species values strength and direct confrontation. You respect warriors who charge forward bravely, but humans learned a long time ago that the warrior who survives is the one who fights smart, not just hard. We don't need your respect. We need you to stop threatening our families." Dawn appeared on a secondary screen, joining the conversation from New Hope. "Regent, I saw what your forces did to my colony. You killed farmers and teachers and children. You did it because you thought we were weak. Now you know better. The choice is yours. End this war or we dismantle your entire military infrastructure piece by piece while your people watch and wonder why you won't surrender." Zuho's image appeared on another screen. From the surface of a Krell-controlled world the humans had captured, "We're liberating the species you conquered, Regent, the ones you forced into your dominion." They're seeing that humans defeat Krell forces but don't enslave them afterward. They're learning they have a choice. More screens activated. Jiwon from the diplomatic ship, Hana from the supply fleet, Mina from the planetary assault force, all the humans Veeler had met, all of them now showing Thaknor the truth. Humanity was not a scattered collection of colonies. It was an organized species with a single purpose. "Surrender," Taeyong said. "Accept our terms. Withdraw all claims on human territory. Release all conquered species. Pay reparations, and we stop right now, this very moment. And if I refuse," asked, but his voice lacked conviction, "then we continue the grind until your military collapses, your government falls, and your people rise up demanding peace. Either way, this war ends. The only question is how many more of your people die before you accept reality." Thier sat in silence for a long moment. Around him, Veeler could see other Krell officials, and many of them looked as exhausted as their regent. Finally, Thaknor spoke. "You have broken us, not through superior strength but through relentless determination. Very well, I accept your terms." The bridge of the Indomitable remained silent. No cheering, no celebration, just quiet acknowledgement that the objective had been achieved. Taeyong nodded. "Cease fire, all ships Stand down, comments peacekeeping. Operations, he turned to Velter, now. You'll see what humans do with victory. Wheeler had documented the entire war. He had seen humans fight with efficiency and determination that frightened other species. He had witnessed tactics and strategies that would be studied for generations, but nothing prepared him for what came next, because the truly terrifying thing about humans, Wheeler was about to learn, wasn't how they fought. It was how they won. 6 months after the Krill surrender, Wheeler returned to Trade Station Vidian 7. The war was over. The documentary was nearly complete. He had recorded everything: the peaceful beginning, the sudden violence, the systematic campaign, the final victory, but he needed to document the aftermath. This was the part that would shock the galaxy most. The station looked the same as when Wheeler had left it, but everything felt different. Human ships moved through the docking ports again. But now everyone knew what those ships could become if threatened. Wheeler found Jiwon in the same cafe where they had first met. The human sat at the same table, drinking the same coffee, wearing civilian clothes again. He looked tired, but at peace. "Welcome back," Guy said, gesturing to the seat across from him. "How's the documentary?" "Almost finished," Velter replied, sitting down. "But I need to understand the ending." The galaxy expected humanity to conquer the Krell, to establish an empire, to punish them for their aggression. Instead, we helped them rebuild, Guy finished. He sipped his coffee. "That surprises people. It defies all logic," Wheeler said. "You won. You had the power to take whatever you wanted. Why didn't you?" Jiwon looked out the window at the stars beyond. "Because we remember what it's like to be conquered. In our history on Earth, there were times when stronger nations invaded weaker ones. Sometimes those conquerors were cruel, and the conquered people suffered for generations. We decided we wouldn't be like that." He turned back to Wheeler. "We fought the Krill because they threatened our people. Once that threat was eliminated, the war was over. We don't want their territory. We don't want revenge. We just want to live in peace." Wheeler had traveled to the Kree home world to see the reconstruction efforts. What he witnessed there changed everything he thought he knew about warfare. Human engineers worked alongside Krell workers, rebuilding the infrastructure destroyed during the war. Hana coordinated supply shipments, food, medical supplies, building materials, all provided by humanity at no cost to the Krell. "We broke their military," Hana explained as she showed Velter the reconstruction projects. "If we leave them broken, they'll either become pirates or someone else will conquer them. Neither outcome helps anyone, so we help them rebuild." Balar visited hospitals where human doctors treated Krell wounded. He saw schools where human teachers helped Krell children who had lost their education during the war. He documented food distribution centers where humans fed Krell civilians who had lost everything. One day he found Mina overseeing the removal of military weapons from the Krell planet. She directed teams that carefully dismantled the defense platforms, cataloged the weapons, and destroyed the ones that violated galactic conventions. "We're not taking these weapons for ourselves," Mina explained. "We're eliminating the Krell's ability to wage aggressive war, but leaving them enough for self-defense. It's a balance. How do you determine that balance?" Wheeler asked. "We look at what they need to protect themselves. From pirates and raiders, then we leave them that everything designed for invasion and conquest gets destroyed. They keep their home, they keep their dignity, they just can't threaten anyone else anymore. Suho was training a new Krell defense force, one focused on protection rather than expansion. Fellow watched as human military instructors taught Krell soldiers different tactics, different philosophies, were teaching them to be defenders, not conquerors. Suho said there's a difference. Defender fights to protect home and family, a conqueror fights to take from others. The Krill need to learn that difference. A young Krill soldier approached Suho with a question about defensive positions. Suho answered patiently, showing no hatred or contempt for the species that had attacked his people just months ago. Veeler interviewed that Krell soldier. Later, how do you feel being trained by human? The soldier's expression was complex, confused, grateful, ashamed. They defeated us completely. They could have destroyed us. Instead, they help us. I don't understand them, neither does anyone else. Felter admitted the species that the Krell had conquered during their expansion were freed. Human diplomats helped establish new governments, provided resources, and protected them from any Krell who might want revenge. Veeler watched as dozens of species celebrated their liberation. Many of them feared humans would become their new masters, but instead humans simply left once the new governments were stable. We're not interested in ruling anyone, Jiwon explained at one of the liberation ceremonies. We just want everyone to have the same chance. We have to build their own future without someone else controlling it. Admiral Taeyang was called to testify before the Galactic Council. Feller recorded the entire session. The council members asked the questions that everyone wanted answered. Why didn't you conquer the Krell? Taeyang's answer was simple. Because victory isn't about gaining territory, it's about achieving peace. Why help them rebuild? Because a desperate, broken species becomes a problem for everyone. A stable, peaceful species benefits the entire galaxy. Aren't you afraid they'll attack again? No, because they've learned what happens when they do. Fear of consequences is a powerful teacher, but more than that, we're showing them a better path. Trade, cooperation, mutual benefit. They're learning that peaceful coexistence brings more prosperity than conquest ever could. One council member, a Thorian warrior, asked the question that bothered many species. Your military capabilities far exceed what you've shown the galaxy. How many weapons do you have hidden? How large is your true fleet? Taeyang looked at the assembled council. We have enough to defend ourselves and our allies. That's all you need to know. We don't threaten anyone who doesn't threaten us first. But yes, we are prepared. We will always be prepared. Our history taught us that lesson too well, and if another species attacks you, then they will learn the same lesson the Krell learned. Attacking humanity is the worst mistake any species can make, not because we're cruel, but because we're thorough. We don't fight battles, we end wars. Council session concluded with a new recognition. Humanity was officially acknowledged as a major power in galactic affairs, not through conquest or expansion, but through demonstrated capability and restrained use of power. B'Elar completed his documentary 6 months later. He had hours of footage, thousands of interviews, documentation of the entire war from beginning to end. But the conclusion was the hardest part to write. He stood in his editing Studio, looking at all the material, trying to find the right words to explain what he had witnessed. Finally, he recorded his closing narration. I came to understand humans. I watched them build homes, raise children, create art, and pursue trade. They were peaceful, cooperative, and kind. Everything I documented showed a species that had evolved beyond war. Then I watched them go to war. They were efficient, ruthless, unstoppable. They fought with strategies that other species couldn't counter. They endured when others would have collapsed. They coordinated across vast distances as if they shared a single mind. They were terrifying, but what truly frightened me was how easily they became peaceful. Again, the same humans who fought with cold efficiency helped rebuild their enemy cities, the same admiral who orchestrated systematic destruction, coordinated humanitarian aid, the same soldiers who held defensive lines taught their former enemies how to protect themselves. The galaxy fears humans not because they're good at war. Every species has warriors. Every species can fight. We fear humans because they can be monsters and choose not to be. They have the capability for absolute destruction but exercise absolute restraint. They can wage total war but prefer peaceful trade. They can conquer but choose to cooperate. That choice, that constant deliberate choice to be better than their capabilities allow, that is what makes humans unique. That is what makes them powerful. That is what makes them terrifying, because we all know what they could do if they ever stopped choosing peace. The Krello learned this lesson. They attacked humans expecting to find soft traders. They found warriors. Then after their defeat they expected cruelty. They found mercy. Now the Krell are our allies. They trade with humans. They learn from humans, and they remember what happens if that relationship breaks. This is the truth about humanity. They will offer you their hand in friendship. They will trade fairly, cooperate generously, and help you build a better future. But if you strike that offered hand, if you threaten their families, if you force war upon them, they will show you what monsters they can become. And then after they've won, they will help you rebuild and offer their hand again. That restraint, that mercy after victory, that choice to be peaceful despite having every reason and ability to be vengeful, that is true power. That is why the galaxy fears humans, not because of what they are, but because of what they could be, and consciously choose not to be. Hope we never forget this lesson. Wheeler ended the recording and prepared to release the documentary to the Galactic Network. He received a message from New Hope. It was from Shiwen Hana and many others he had met during his time with humans. They were back to their normal lives, trading, farming, teaching, building. But Wheeler knew the truth. Now those farmers could become soldiers. Those teachers could become tacticians. Those builders could become warriors.